Can you take an old painting and turn it into this? In this video, I'm going to talk about what you need to do to take an old oil painting, not acrylic, an old oil painting that you just don't want to use and bring it back to reuse it like a brand new canvas. My name is Vita Evenson and I paint grease. So why would you take old paintings and refurbish them? Well, there's plenty of reasons. If you are in a frugal kind of situation, which I happen to be in right now, I'm not going to go out and buy brand new linens, brand new canvases, and do practice studies on them, or even paintings. When I have a wealth of paintings that really are not saleable, they were studies or they were attempts at making something work and it didn't quite work. So I want to take those and re-establish them, refurbish them. These are paintings that are a few years old and up to 10 years old. They've just been around for a long time. They ain't going anywhere. They're not, I wouldn't put them up for sale. So why not just use the canvas or the linen and make a brand new painting that's going to be up to my level today? In today's world, you don't need to have a record of your old studies, your old paintings, the ones that didn't quite work out, the ones that just didn't go. All we need to do is photograph them, put them in a file on our phone or on our computers, and you have your reference to what you have done in the past and where you are today. So you can take all those old canvases and make them brand new and get started to make brand new paintings. So we're going to be using an acrylic gesso. Yes, acrylics over oils, but there's a trick to that. And we're also going to be using oil-based primer. And I'm going to show you the difference between the two and how to use them both and which one's better. So these are all older paintings that I've just kind of left and haven't done anything with. So let's say these ones here, what can we do? These paintings are old. These are years and years and years old, except for this one. This one is from Christmas. I guess it hasn't been a year. I'm going to talk about that. Okay, and here I have an attempt. I've kind of scraped back. It's not working. So I'm just going to completely start over. So what do you do? How do you take an oil painting that's 5 years old? How do you get this off? Well, you don't. You don't get it off. But what you can do is you can use acrylic gesso and paint over a fully dried oil painting and just start over completely. And you're thinking, what? How is that working? And this will only work if it is fully dry, if it's well over a year old. I would, all of these paintings here are 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 years old. And so you can just paint over it because all of the oil painting, the underlayers, have fully dried. That's why you can do that. But that's why this one I can't do yet, because I did this at Christmas time. So yeah, it feels fully dry, but it is not dry yet. It needs at least a year to know for sure that you can actually put acrylics on top of oils and it'll be okay. So for this one, I'm going to be using my artist grade gesso. I'm going to use a little bit more expensive one. Here is one that I got. It's super cheap, and gesso is gesso, yes, but just in case they've got any other stuff in it, I'm not going to use this one at all. If I'm just using putting on gesso like on MDF boards for studies, that's not a problem for me. I'll use the lesser grade one. But for this, because it is, really, really good, this is linen. And I like it. I'm going to take care of that. Looking at this one as well, there's not a lot of texture on it. A couple of coats of gesso on top of this and it'll just be brand new. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so the thing that you want to put on 3 to 4 thin coats when you're painting over something. So you know, this is pretty thick. I'm going to take some out and put it in a jar and water it down a little bit. And I'm going to add some water to that. Now, always put the lid on the gesso that you're not using. Acrylic gesso dries really quickly, and if you leave the cap open on the jar, you're going to get a hardened crust over on top. Always watch out for that. So I'm putting on a very, very thin coat. It is watered down, letting it dry, and now I'm coming back with the second coat. And for me, it's important to get rid of the entire painting. I don't want to see any remnants of it behind. It's an energetic thing for me. Some of you will understand what I mean. Others just don't care. It's not a problem for them. And no, it's not a serious problem by all means, but it is how I like to go about it. Okay, so this is dry. This is 2 coats of very thin gesso. I'm going to try now putting on the full gesso as is. And generally that's what you want to do, even if you already buy yourself a pre-gessoed canvas. I always put on a couple coats of gesso, just adding more to it. Depending on what you want to do, what kind of painting you want to do, you can add the gesso. So if it's a landscape and you're going to be using impasto, you can lay it down thick and use the brush strokes. It will add to the overall feeling of the painting, just starting from the gesso. If you know exactly what you're painting, let's say a seascape here or something, you know, maybe I have rocks and the beach here, and here's the water, then I can even make this part smoother, you know, if I don't want to have brush strokes. So there's a lot of options for you, and you know, you just have to play around and find what works for you, what you like, and go with that. The other thing that you can do if you want a smooth surface is put it on, you know, using a brush, and then go back over it with a spatula of some sort to smooth it out and scrape off the extra gesso and see what that does, if you like that look instead. Or you can take a palette knife and just smooth out the thick brush strokes. And also it will, with a palette knife, you can pick up the little bits. I've got a couple of, let's see right there, dried gesso from that is dried on the side of the container. It's actually not very smart of me to be putting it back in the tub, scraping it off on the top. Better to get a rag or paper towels, which I don't have right here right now. Personally, I tend to like a smoother surface to begin with, and I like to lay down my brushwork, the impasto, later on in the painting. First, I just want to get it in, and I don't want by chance a gesso brush stroke in an area that maybe doesn't need texture. So it's not my preferred method, but when I was beginning, it was helpful. mostly because I was able to learn more about brush strokes and how brush strokes work on a canvas and what to do and what not to do. But that really did take some time. Okay, so this is 3 layers. It's gonna need another one. Okay, so this little painting has some brush strokes, some texture on the lemons here. I'm gonna try and sand them down a little bit. I just have this kind of a block sander thing. It's nice because it's easy to hold. Nah, that's really all it needs. Okay, so I just wiped it off with a paper towel in the garbage. Let's take this one. I'm going to need to put something underneath. Again, I'm going to start with, let's take this off, with my thinner gesso. Let's see what happens. You can see with the thin gesso that it's not setting everywhere, but that's taken care of in the next coat. As soon as this dries, so as soon as this layer dries, it will be workable. I'm going to go in and lay down a thick coat of gesso for the second layer and see how it goes. It seems to be laying down just fine. I like putting, I mean, you could officially just paint over right here with this. But you can see that there is still some discoloration in some areas. It's not fully covered. I want it to be fully covered and then some before I start a new oil painting on this. Because as time passes, if it's not fully taken care of, the colors can begin to come through the new painting, and we don't want that. Another way that you can reuse old paintings and get rid of the paint is to just sand it back. You have to be careful not to damage the canvas, but you know, you can just get in, sand it away. You probably want to wear a mask so you're not breathing in any of the particles coming up. Or do this in a well-ventilated area. I've got a rag here. It's just slightly damp. You can go in and just wipe it down. This works when you have, you know, quick studies. We haven't got a lot of layers of paint, and the paint isn't very thick at all. I'm gonna try something different here. I'm gonna put some of this on and mix it with a blob of the regular gesso because I do think it's still too thin. Okay, so this one on real thick, it may in fact be too thick for the first layer. But you can see that it didn't bubble like the other ones did with the water. Let me scrape some of this back. Or smooth it out with, of course I am picking some up. You can see how much comes up. I'm not pressing down, I'm just going over at a slight angle. And as you can see, whatever I'm picking up, here's another spot here, wiping it on the rag. Not putting it back in now that I went and got that rag. Okay. Now I'm going in with thick gesso. Let's see what happens. What we're going to do is let these sit overnight and fully dry and see if there's any problems in the morning. Will there be any cracking, and if so, why? What might have gone wrong? Your paintings will crack when you have a faster drying layer on top of a slower drying layer. So these are old paintings. Officially, you can go over with acrylic gesso and start over. If the painting is old enough and dry, completely dry all the way through, and it can feel dry to the touch, but that does not mean it's dry. It needs to be at least a year since you've touched the painting. So let's see what happens with that. Let's say you have a painting that you know you did in the past few months. So it's about 5 months old. If I put gesso on, it will crack. It's not going to work. And let's say I don't remember when I did this. What to do then? Well, then you would take your sandpaper, whatever you're using, and sand it down at least to how we did it on this one here, getting most of the paint off. And then you can go in with the acrylic gesso and paint over. Now, of course, none of this matters if you have oil-based primer. This is just if you're putting acrylics over oils. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. Let's say you have a nice canvas and you have an old painting and you want to reuse it, but you want to reuse it and make it sellable and not have any fears of cracking, nothing. This is what you need to do. First, you can see in this painting that I've got some impasto paint going on in some areas of the fabric. I've wiped away much of the face, and there just needs to be some work done on this. I'm going to take my trusty little palette knife and go in on these thicker areas and just begin to scrape the impasto off. You can see it really does come off easily. And this painting is maybe 3 years old now. I just put it away and didn't touch it, waiting for the inspiration of what I'm going to do with this. Am I going to continue this girl or not? So now I've just went through all of my old canvases and decided that I'm just going to refurbish them. The only thing I have to worry about really is the canvas fibers and not destroying the canvas underneath. So I'm not poking in, I'm sliding across, and it is about a 45-degree angle. And it seems to work very well for what I'm after here. Here we've got some thick impasto paint, right? It comes out in chunks. So this takes a little bit longer, but the end results will be much better. Secure, no real worries about your painting. After 6 months drying, suddenly it begins to crack and there's, it's just not going well. We want to avoid any reasons for that at all. So again, here I'm doing this very lightly, and the tip of the palette knife is catching on the uplifted impasto paint and kind of getting under it and lifting it up. Not pushing down on the canvas too hard. Just want to break it up. If you can begin to break up that brush stroke or that palette knife where you just lay down that impasto paint. It's enough to break up the entire mass of it and comes off pretty easily. Another thing I tend to do is go with the grain of the canvas. And again, I'm not pressing in, I'm not digging into the painting, not deeply anyways. Here's another spot. I usually do the impasto areas on the light side. I don't want to pick up light, reflected light and things like that in the shadow areas. Here I just couldn't get it. Just not happy with this one. So I kept going in and trying to fix it and adjust it, and that's just a big mistake altogether. Rarely will that work, at least in my experience of painting. Every time I've tried to go in and fix something, usually it just made it worse. That is why I really, really need to do my no-tan. I need to know the blueprint of the painting, which is my no-tan. And when I have that, then I can create form in a much better way. That's interesting. The red paint is seems to have seems more adhesive than the titanium white. I'm pretty sure this was titanium white that I was using. So now I'm digging a little bit more, and you can see just a little bit that's coming up on my palette knife. Okay, so I just emptied the extra stuff in the garbage. Now I've got some areas here that need work still. So I'm gonna just sand it and see if I can get most of it off. You can see some red is coming off on here. Okay, so I'm gonna take this damp cloth and get all the little particles off. So now, what do? Do I put acrylic gesso on here? And my answer is no, because this is going to be another beautiful painting. Completely different, not gonna be a person as far as I know. So this is what we're gonna use. Winsor & Newton, no affiliation, oil painting primer. Okay, so this is what you need to use. If you want to paint a painting, if you want to paint over an old painting, you need to sand it down, get most of the paint off, and then, yeah, you can use acrylic gesso, but this is going to guarantee that everything is going to be okay. So if you've taken these steps and you put on the oil painting primer, it's like having a brand new piece of canvas. You can sell it without any worries. Yeah, it's just the way to go. So this is only what's left here is a very, very thin layer. You can see how close it is to the canvas. Oil painting primer is oil paint. So the fat over lean issue is in play. It's all good, and you can just use this as is. Let's see how it is. Make sure this is dry. You can see it's a lot stringier because of the oil. You can, in fact, add turpentine to this. I'm just going to go right with it. Get the first layer on there. You can see here it's still a little bit thick. I could have sanded it down a little bit more. So I'm really pushing this into the canvas, spreading it around, getting a thin layer. This is also the way to go when you're unsure of an old painting. What exactly did you use on it? The oil painting primer is the way to go. You can put it on top of acrylics and on top of oil paintings. Now, the disadvantage of doing it this way is that it's going to take some time. You have to put on the layers slowly. This needs to dry before I can add a second layer on top. All right, so this dried from last night, which is great. So I'm going to put on another coat of this. Okay, so this is looking just fine. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to give it a few days, and then I can lay down a wash and start a brand new painting. All right, so there you have it. You can use acrylic gesso over an old oil painting as long as it is well over a year old and fully, completely dry. However, if you really want to paint something that is going to last, you should probably stick to the oil painting primer. In fact, it is the safest way to go, even though it takes a little bit longer to put it together and get it all settled in. So thanks so much for watching the video. Please click the like button and the subscribe and that little notification bell so you know when I have a new video up and out on this channel. So with that, everybody, be inspired, be creative, be you.